What you do at home matters. Now, I know what you're thinking. My refrigerator? Maybe it's the bedroom that matters, right? Come on. But the fact is, well, how many of you live with someone at home? Right? How many of you maybe have a spouse at home, right? Or significant other. I had, when I was in the military, yes, I had what I call the starter husband. Anyone else have a starter spouse? Yeah. Don't laugh too hard because you might still be on yours. Sometimes the starter is a keeper, or some of us, like me, are slow learners. It might be a spouse. It might be a family member, a child, a mother, a father, someone in the sandwich generation, right, where you're in between. So we all have people in our house, or most of us do, or friends. Here's the thing. Someone is always watching. Always watching. And it's not about what we say that they watch, do they? It's about what you do that they watch. So I'm going to challenge you. What are you watching, right? What are you doing? Are you paying more attention to what you do? Because the fact is, what you do is probably not what you mean to teach, is it? Do what we say, not what we, right? So, think about this. How can we better show up for our children, our nieces, our nephews, our grandchildren, our family, our friends, and doing what we say? How are we showing up when it comes to gender bias? I'm going to give you some data on here. So that was that next one. So, because I know what you're thinking. I know what you're thinking. Gender bias? We have come a long way, baby. You know you're thinking that, right? You're thinking that. But the fact is, look at this data, right? Men between the ages of 18 and 34 in opposite sex relationships are no more likely than older, we're talking like baby boomer generation, couples to divide household labor equitably. Really? What year is it? Can someone fill me in? Right? How can this still happen? Oh, wait, there's more. 4 hours. Women do 4 hours of household work a day. What's the other number? Tell me. 2.5. Guess who does that? Come on, guess. The men. Almost 2 to 1. Is that equitable? No. Working mothers today, note the first word, working. Working mothers today spend as much time doing activities with their children as the stay-at-home mothers did in the 1970s. Yet, universal support from men is almost completely that it's good, go support, go do a career, hold the political office. But what is holding us back is how much we have to still do at home. Is that fair? Is that equitable? We have come a long way. We have. It's not the same world as our parents, our grandparents, our great-grandparents, right? Where they had the nuclear family and the mom stayed home and it was like, anyone watch Leave It to Beaver, right? Remember Leave It to Beaver? If not, watch a TV, there's networks for that, okay? So it has gotten better. Women now exceed men in higher education. Go ahead, give a round of applause for that. Come on. Yes, we've made progress. Gen Z and millennials are much, and notice that much word in there, much more accepting of people who do not identify as either men or women. Interesting, isn't it? We're making progress. Same-sex couples. In same-sex couples, you would think it would be even, right? But what we found, the data shows, is that one person tends to do more at home and less at work than the other. There's still a disparity there. Now, have you ever heard the ham story? Like one person, okay. So it's not my story, but it serves the point of how we got to this problem, because we have failed. We have failed as a society, and it's not the school's fault, and it's not the media's fault. Let me tell you whose fault it is. It's all of our fault in how we are at home. But it's not only our fault. So the ham story, there's a story about a young child was watching, in this case it was the mother, right? We can insert in father here too, but it was the mother making a ham. And as the mother went to put the ham in the oven, she cut the ends off. And the child goes, "Mommy, why'd you cut the ends off?" And she goes, I don't know. It's just what my mom always did. Let me call your grandma. So she calls the grandma and, Mom, my child asked me, why do we cut the ends off the ham before we put it in the oven? And she goes, I don't know. It's just what my mom always did. Well, luckily, great-grandma's still alive. So they call great-grandma. Mom, in this case, it's the generational up, right? Mom, we were having this conversation and we were just wondering, why do you cut the ends off the ham? Is it to make it more juicy? Is it so it cooks more evenly throughout the middle? And the mom goes, no. This would be the great-grandma. The great-grandmother goes, no. Our ovens were smaller. We had to cut the ends off so it would fit. But what happened each generation? We do what our parents, what our grandparents, what our great-grandparents, and so on did. But that doesn't always serve us, does it? No, it doesn't serve our future. It doesn't serve what we want to teach our children. So the first thing is to be more aware of what you are teaching, of what you are doing. Our actions determine what we teach our younger generations. No matter what you are doing, whether it's home, work, school, community, what you do is what people see. And it's how they evaluate you, right? And respond to you. So your actions are everything. But let's talk about chores. You want to talk about chores? Look at these numbers. Boys do 30 minutes, an average of 30 minutes of chores a day, versus girls do 45 minutes. Now, when you think about that, it's only 15 minutes. Not a big deal, right? Yeah. Over a year, that's only 5,475 minutes of difference, of inequity at home. Well, that's not 5,000. Well, maybe that does sound like a few. That only equates to a little over 90 hours of difference in chores. Now, for me, this is my daughter in a Blackhawk wearing my helmet. So my daughter, it was just her and I. I was a single parent in the military. So I did everything, right? And because of that, from a very, very young age, and because I was pretty busy flying helicopters and missions for the military, she had to do a lot of chores. But she did them with me. We did them together. The American Psychological Association, I had to put this whole thing on here so I would say it right, okay? So the influence of parental attitudes and behaviors on children's attitudes toward gender and household labor in early adulthood. That was the name of the study. Okay, right? So I had to put the whole thing on there so I'd say it correctly. But here's the results. Early maternal gender roles and attitudes determine the amount of housework they do as an adult. What are you doing at home? Now, I will tell you that I did say it was our failure and it's your fault in your home, but it's not. It's our parents' fault too, right? So we can blame them. Don't go home and call a parent. Don't do that. Okay? It's not only their fault, right? But we can change today. We can do some things differently because what we do at home impacts, I want you to think about, from a young age, they see that disparity at home, right? So let me ask you this. How many of you, I'm going to ask the women this, how many of you, when you cook dinner, you serve everyone else and sit down last? Yeah. What are we teaching our daughters? What are we teaching our sons when we eat last? Well, you might be thinking, well, that's nurturing, right? That's caring. That's why I do that. But wouldn't it be more caring if we serve together? If everyone cooks together and everyone serves together and everyone sets the table and everyone plays a role, wouldn't that be more nurturing and caring? Can I get a yes? Yeah. What if we did more things together? I mean, that's what I did with my daughter because we had no choice. It was just the two of us. You have a choice. Now, you might think, I'm not a good cook. Somebody else is going to cook. Great. Divide equally is the point. Divide equally. You cook, I'll clean. Kids will set the table. But we all sit together. That is really important. Because these kind of behaviors that we have at home, as our children become teenagers and go into the workforce, and later as adults go into management and leadership roles, this is what happens. You see, at college graduation and even without college degrees, the gender pay gap is very close to zero. It's pretty equitable. But what happens is as men and women get further into the workforce, their workloads at home for women increase. And when the workloads at home, when it comes to housework and childcare, increase, it decreases the opportunities they have at work. 0% to a 55% pay disparity. 28% for those that are in non-college degree roles. And it starts at home. But we're not for fall, right? We got something we can do about it. You ready to do something about it right now today? Yes? 3 of you. Yes. Okay. Are we ready to take action on it today? Okay. So the first thing is I'm going to talk to the men. You ready? Bring it on. Are you ready? We need you. We need you to be aware of this disparity. We need you to be aware of the inequities that we face, and we need you to be advocates, and we need you to step up. All right? Next, as parents, we can divide chores more equally in terms of time and duration between children of different genders. And to be honest, what we teach our children, those aren't just chores for an allowance they may not get anymore. Right? Those aren't just chores. Those are life skills. Start thinking of chores as life skills. In my house, chores are their rent. They have to do chores to live there. They don't get paid. Okay? Employers. What can our employers do? Well, they could stop calling us at night. Right? They can acknowledge that we don't have to work all hours of all days. What about the government? Subsidized childcare would be a help, wouldn't it? What about, there was another one there, public preschool. Do you think that would help? I got a clapper back there. Yeah. Yeah. There are things that the government can do as well. And here's the last one. Stop making assumptions. As a military veteran from the United States Army, I cannot tell you how many times I get mail addressed to the veteran of the house, Mr. McCormick. I show up at my child's school with a disabled veteran license plate, and they say, "Oh, what did your husband do?" Stop making gender assumptions. That is something we can all do, whether you have children or not. Thank you. Yeah. We've got to fly. I'm a pilot and military, so I have to have acronyms for everything, right? So we've got to fly. We just fly. But what fly means is to first lead yourself. How you show up at home, how you show up for your family, how you show up at work, how you show up in your community. Let me tell you, go back to the beginning. Someone is always watching. And now it might be on video too. Right? Someone's always watching. So lead yourself in difficult situations. Lead yourself with an awareness of disparity, equity, bias. I mean, not just for gender, but for everything. It starts with you. You are in the pilot's seat. And when you fly, you will soar.